Welcome fathers who are looking to inspire their kids and become fearless. This is the Become a Fearless Father show and I'm your host, Klaas van Oosterhout. I'm a father of 2 boys, husband and entrepreneur. This show is created to teach you how to take control and enjoy the most difficult job you've ever faced, fatherhood. I'm going to keep it real and share real life experience. A heads up, there is no magic pill. You will have to put in the hours, sweat and tears to achieve victory. Are you ready to improve your health, wealth, relationships, knowledge and become the hero your family needs you to be? I know you are. So get your pen and paper ready and let's become fearless fathers together.
So we are live and ready to go with my man, Kenyon Zitzka.
Boss, I'm excited for this, man.
Good, man. Me too. We're looking forward to this. Since the moment we've got to know each other a little bit through our high performance club calls with Niji, was really excited about your energy, and after that, really blessed with the way you tried to help me out, and also reading your daily quotes, which is awesome. I recommend everybody to follow you and do that, of course. But let's dive in, and instead of me telling how great you are, why don't you start off a little bit with letting us know, who's Kenyon, what have you been doing, what have you up to, and, what are your plans for the future?
So, like you said, my name's Kenyon Zitzka. I run a podcast and Facebook group called Zero Xcuses. I founded that because of basically my own struggles with my own excuses and lack of discipline. I've spent 22 years in the military, getting ready to retire here in March. But, I struggle a lot after coming off of active duty, after spending 10 years on active duty into the reserve side, and carrying that discipline that I learned in the military over into my own life. And really kind of just floundering and succumbing to, basically what society tells us we should do with our lives, and how we, just going to school, the American dream, getting married, having the 2.5 kids, white picket fence, the house, the 30-year mortgage, all the debts and the bills and stuff that come along with that. And I really found myself dissatisfied with that. And so I started to really go on this journey of reflection, and really started pinpointing the fact that I lacked the discipline that I had in the military, and started to build systems and routines into my life, and I wanted to share that with the world. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of who I am and what I'm trying to do, and my mission with Zero Excuses. But in my personal life, I'm married to my lovely wife, Jamie, getting ready to be 10 years next year. So starting to plan out that big 10-year anniversary vacation over in Hawaii. That's our favorite location in the whole wide world. So that's one big goal that we have for next year. And then we have a 3.5-year-old getting ready to be 4 in December. Daughter Piper, she's grown by leaps and bounds. She's been, she wants to be a surfer. She wants to learn how to play guitar. She ordered me to start saving my pennies so I can build her a pink number 9 race car. So, I am just soaking that up. I love outdoor activities. I love helping other people out. And like I said, I'm getting ready to retire from the military. And I want to continue that mentorship and leading role that I have in the military, and kind of bring this full circle. That's what I'm looking to do, with my podcast and everything that I'm doing on Facebook, and connecting with people and leading people to lead lives that they want to live, instead of what society tells us we should be doing.
Exactly. It sounds exciting, man. The times that are coming ahead of you and the ones that you're in right now, that's awesome. Listen, when you were talking about the American dream, and of course, not coming from America, we all know the American dream far too well, as it's coming over in all kinds of movies, etc. However, I also think that the American dream, everybody has their own big dream, right?
Absolutely.
So if you have to change that American dream and make it more towards how you look at it now, what does that American dream for you look? How does that look right now?
Well, it's the classic, I want to be able to spend my time with who I want, however I want, and, have full control over my life. And that's becoming more and more apparent to me that I need to um, not be an employee and be more of an employer. And, that's how I see myself nowadays. And like I said, that's what I'm trying to build with Zero Excuses. Part of the American dream is that we should be spending 40 plus hours at a job that we marginally like, that has cushy benefits, that has that 401k, that keeps you safe and secure. And don't get me wrong, there is absolutely nothing wrong with someone who actually desires that. But I just looked at what everyone else was doing around me, and I was like, I guess that's what I should be doing. And for me, it took taking a step back and saying, what do I really want in my life? And like I mentioned, my daughter wants to be, a race car driver, or learn to play guitar, go surfing, spend time at the beach. I would love to be able to just take, she says to me, Daddy, I want to go swimming, or I want to go, drive my go-kart. I want to be able to do that at a moment's notice and not have to, I don't know if I've got enough time to take off work, or, we can't quite afford that. I just want to, be able to have the freedom, whether that's with time or money, to be able to do those things. So that's my dream in a nutshell. And, I'm definitely not there yet, but what it's taking is, building those systems and the habits and those routines into my life to be able to do that.
Nice. We live in the same dream. So I'm loving that you were also mentioning habits and routines. Let's get into that a little bit later on. Listen, I first want to dive a little bit into your mission and what you're trying to do with Zero Excuses. As we both know, life is all about discipline and not having any excuses, right? However,
Yes.
what I've noticed is that most fathers out there, they wake up after hit the snooze button so many times, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, I need to get to work, or oh crap, I need to do this and that. They run up, they quickly get dressed, maybe they have a shower, maybe they have a cup of coffee, and they're off. And it sounds and it feels like just the start of a stressful day from the beginning, right? I actually want to call this the morning routine from hell. I just decided when I started making these questions for you.
Yeah.
And it's just writing this question just already made me a little stressed.
No, you just described me to a T about 3-4 years ago. I had that morning routine from hell, just like wake up with barely enough time to get out the door and get to work on time. But that is a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. Really gotta wake up with purpose and intent every single morning.
I know. So I'm just wondering, since those 3 years when you started, what now is your philosophy on a morning routine, and what does yours look like?
Well, my philosophy is, you have to start, like, the 2 points in your day where you are in most control is the hour that you wake up and the hour before you go to bed. So if you could get those things locked in, dialed in, you're really going to start to see a massive change in your life. But what my morning routine looks like, I wake up at 4:30. I hop out of bed, head in the bathroom, brush my teeth, get a nice tall glass of water, and then I try not to. That first half hour, I do not check my phone and check email or anything like that. I journal in the Daily Stoic Journal and read the Daily Stoic. So I always prime my mind with something positive, something motivating. I review, like the night before, I always plan out my day. I do a quick review of that, ask myself some key questions so that I know what I need to do. I can hit the deck plates. That's a Navy term. Hit the deck plates running, and I don't have to stress or have much anxiety about what I need to do next. Like you described. Oh, I need to get my workout clothes ready. I need to do this. I need to do that. Like it's scripted, and it's I've got it down to a hardcore routine, such that it just flows. It just happens. So I read, I journal. I do check my email because there are some key things that I need to keep on top of. So I choose to spend five minutes making sure that there's some things that that I keep on top of. So I know a lot of people would probably say that's not a good idea, but as long as I'm disciplined, keep it to 5 minutes. I'm in, I'm out, and I can go back to what I'm doing. I also go on Facebook and make my I've started this week is make my my morning thoughts post because I like to share what's on my mind with people, and I've been very inconsistent with that lately. So I thought, hey, I'll throw that into my morning routine, get that knocked out. That's something I love doing. I love, and it seems to be getting more feedback. I'm getting more shares on it, so it's had a positive effect as well. And I think I can impact more people that way too, because you're across the globe. It's still morning time where you're at when I make that post instead of in the afternoon. So it's still relevant to a lot more people I'm trying to reach. But then I do CrossFit. I'm a big CrossFit type guy. Just got my level 1 trainer course knocked out. So at the local Air Force base, I go to CrossFit every single morning. That happens at 6, and while I'm on my way there, I'm either listening to an audiobook, listening to a motivating podcast, just constantly feeding my mind. Oh, one other thing that I do every morning, I've got I call them my personal doctrines. They're just a series of mantras that I like, just some general purpose ones to feed my mind. While I'm sitting in the toilet taking a piss every morning, it's hanging right there. I can read it. I know a lot of people don't like to multitask, but you can combine one conscious activity with one subconscious activity. So I try and use my time wisely, because most of the time we're pissing time away, and I don't like to do that. Pun intended there.
Yeah, exactly. Good pun. We'll dive a little bit later also in audiobooks and motivational podcasts. Love to hear what you love to listen to. However, would you say, because you mentioned that you have control, and actually that's the only thing you really have control over is the hour before the hour you get up and the hour before you go to sleep. Are those things separate for you? Like, okay, I have my hour and then I set up separate, or do you believe that it's absolutely something that's coordinated together and one has to work with the other one? Sorry.
Yeah, I've kind of made my own system. I mean, you're familiar with the stuff we've gone through with the High Performers Club. I've kind of tailored it to my personal tastes. So yes, the evening routine is directly tied to the morning routine. You can't have one without the other. I believe you have to review what you did and did not accomplish during the day, and what you didn't accomplish, I try and roll into the following day, or maybe I'll plug that in further down the week. But if your listeners are interested, I can share my daily planning worksheet. But there's a time, or there's a section where I have my evening questions and my morning questions. So that's one day's worth of activities and feedback that I get. So all that feedback, that all those experiences that I have throughout a particular day, I make sure I want to at least capture that on paper. I may not save these sheets for a long term, but I find that just putting pen to paper and I guess memorializing it on a sheet of paper creates that that neural pathway, and it really helps it sink in. So I do what I call a hot wash up every single night, and I just review my day and make sure that that gets captured, and then I plan out my next day and try and apply those lessons on a continual basis. So I've got my present day worksheet next to me, and then I got my next day next to me, and I write that out. And then in the next morning, I ask myself, like I said, those key questions, like, what are my top 3 no-shitters? What am I not looking forward to today? Because I think it's important that we address that early on, because there's some things that that pop up during the day that you don't necessarily like doing, and it's important that we, I guess, nip that in the bud early on during the day and create a strategy on how you're going to make sure that you get through that particular event that you're not looking forward to. So yeah, that's a long way to say yes. My morning routine is directly tied to my evening routine, and vice versa.
Nice. And what you said is very powerful, to actually answer the question, okay, what am I not looking forward to today, and do that the quickest thing. I guess that comes down to the zero excuses, right?
Yes.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I know you're really enjoying the show. Just want to make sure, if you're liking this information, please subscribe and press the like button. And also, go visit becomeafearlessfather.com. You get the opportunity to share your biggest challenge at the moment as a father. And it gives me the opportunity to try and help you overcome this. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Nice.
And
I like that.
yeah, my philosophy around excuses is we're always going to have excuses. They're always going to be present. So the mantra that I like to tell people is to do exactly the opposite of what your excuse is telling you to do. So it's basically, hey, you can't completely eliminate all the excuses out of your life. But what we can do is take advantage of them. So I told myself for the longest time that I wasn't a good public speaker, and that. And another excuse I had is like, hey, I'm 5'6", I'm not tall, I'm not muscular. So with those two excuses, I started a podcast and I started doing CrossFit. So I think I'm a better public speaker, but I'm definitely not the world's best, most wordy public speaker. But I've definitely made progress, and there's some things that have come out of this podcast that I would have never imagined doing a live interview with someone across the Atlantic Ocean, things like that. It's really surprising what you can, if you just allow your excuses to lead you a little bit. It's amazing what comes out of that. So
I hear you. Yeah, that's awesome. So, in regards to your zero excuse lifestyle, if that's what I'm going to call it for now.
yeah.
Advise fathers to start setting up a morning routine to start the day off right, and to make sure they stay motivated and disciplined to execute this morning routine every single day.
Well, I think it starts a little bit before your morning routine. I think you need to sit down and craft a compelling and strong vision for yourself, and then work that into your morning routine. One thing I did forget to mention about that is to actually review my vision every single day, because that becomes your foundation for what you do on a day in and day out basis. If you keep that fresh in your mind, it won't go far from your mind when you're in the trenches, when you've got two kids, one's screaming, one's trying to use the potty. It's fresh in your mind, and you can dial that up and say, you know what, I'm doing this for a reason, and you can quickly redirect your mind in a positive manner. And the second thing that I would say is to have some sort of meditation or breathing practice every single morning. That's another thing I forgot to mention is I meditate for 6 to 8 minutes. It doesn't have to be for a very long time, but the biggest benefit that I've got from having a meditation practice is that it develops your mental muscle to be aware of your thoughts, and to be able to, like the other day, I think of an example of this. My daughter, she tripped over something that was on the floor. She hurt herself a little bit. She started crying. I could feel that a sense of frustration starting to bubble up inside me. And before, if this were to happen like 3 or 4 years ago, before I started doing this meditation practice, I would have allowed that to spiral out of control. And this meditation practice has allowed me to stop that frustration. Hey, you know what? Kids trip, they fall. This is part of their learning experience. Crying is actually good to develop children's lungs. and it allows me to redirect things in a more positive manner. Obviously, I do not want to see my daughter fall on herself very often, but if she does, I want to turn this into a learning experience. I also, after she was done, hey, what just happened there? Hey, you tripped over something that was on the floor. You remember how mommy and daddy ask you to pick your things up after you're done? This is why. So you can take a step back. Okay, pump the brakes a little bit. Read myself. How can I use this use this as to benefit me instead of, oh my God, my kid's crying, she hurt herself. Letting your mind spiral out of control like that. So those are the two biggest pieces of advice I can give fathers is craft a vision for yourself and meditate. And the other thing I'd like to say about having a vision is if you are just kind of going through the motions and you're in survival mode as a father, you are not showing up as the best version or the best father for your kids. If you are living, it might sound selfish to you at first to, hey, you need to live out your vision. You need to live out your dreams. But if you take a step back and think about it, what more powerful example can you set for your kids than you living out your dreams and living out life on your terms? And I think that if you can take a step back and start to formulate this, write it out on paper. It's not going to be perfect. It's always going to be a work in progress. Get your wife on board, involve her in the conversation. She's definitely not going to agree with every single part, but definitely involve her in the process. And, that's how you can be the best father, is to live life on your terms, in my humble opinion.
Well, I fully agree. We're walking exactly the same path from what I can tell what you're explaining. So that's absolutely amazing. Involving the wife, of course, is very important. And
yeah.
yes,
I've definitely made that mistake a lot.
I did so as well in the beginning. But hey, we live and we learn. And I think that's one of the things as well. What you mentioned, you have your excuses at first, and they come up whether you want to or not, whether you're completely prepared or not. But then it's how you deal with them. And then after that, what you mentioned is like, okay, what's the biggest excuse? What am I the most afraid of doing? So that's what I'm going to knock out first. And that was one of the things for me is like, I want to take this journey of being a fearless father to the next level. And I got all these things. But how is she going to respond? So first knock that out the park, see how that goes. And then we'll come to a consensus and we'll see how far I do whatever I want to do. And
yeah.
We'll take it from there. But that definitely helps then to say, look, that's the first thing that I have to do, because that's the biggest excuse, or the biggest excuses are coming up there for not doing it. So I hope people are starting to see the red line in this whole story is that, your biggest excuses at the same time are your biggest companions, your biggest friends, actually, to show you that's the way you should move to get the most out of your life and get the best results.
Yep.
However, excuses are really tricky. They pop up even without you even noticing. And we tell each other or ourselves, all kinds of stories that there's not even an excuse. It's just like, hey, I did it right. I'm just wondering, what's your system to make sure that you realize, this is an excuse, I need to deal with this, and to make sure that you go through life, following the thread of the excuses and actually living the life of zero excuses?
Well, the biggest, I don't want to call it a system necessarily, but I think there's a definite delineation between an excuse and a legitimate reason. An excuse it defers ownership of that event to something outside of yourself. A reason will guide you. Well, let me back up. A reason, is you own it. Like, I don't have knowledge of sales. That's why I am not obtaining clients. So that gives you, hey, this is my deficiency, and it identifies a path forward. Like that example that I just gave you, this is a real life example. I'm not great at sales. I'm having trouble obtaining clients. So the path forward is I need to improve my sales strategy. I need to market more. Like that involves a clear-cut strategy on how to overcome this deficiency. An excuse, you blame the economy. You blame something external from yourself. So it's not any more complicated than that. And sometimes people tend to overthink it, and they think, oh, is this an excuse or a reason? That's your telltale sign is like, hey, is the reason identifying a path forward? And if not, then I think it's an excuse, and you need to think about it a little harder and see what part of it you can own. Like a lot of people use their wives as an excuse for not to do something or not to pursue that big, hairy, audacious goal that they have, and they blame their wife for not doing that. Well, what piece of that can you own? Have you explained to your wife why it's so important that you reach this goal? Why this is so important? What benefit will she have from you fulfilling this goal? There's a number of things you can ask yourself to start to take ownership of that instead of blaming, complaining, and explaining away why you can't do something. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned the example of, you can use your wife as an excuse. Of course, you can also use your kids as an excuse for
Yes.
not doing the work. But at the same time, you can use work an excuse as to continue working and not spend the time with your wife and your kids, right? So
Yes.
sometimes it becomes a nice little little circle of excuses that at least that's a trap sometimes I step into. I actually want to talk real quick about something else because I've heard a couple of times you mentioned it, and Brandon as well. You guys got this great opportunity coming up for men, but in this case for fathers to really start the next year off right. And I think it starts in November. To this what do you call it, workshop that you guys are setting up. I would love to give you the opportunity a little bit because it sounds absolutely amazing, and I think it's a great opportunity for people to, as I mentioned, to start the year off right. Can you explain a little bit more what you guys are doing and how we can help fathers out there?
Well, let me start off by saying that we all try and make New Year's resolutions, and usually we don't start thinking about them until like December 31st. And we come up with something off the cuff, and they really don't have any staying power. So what me and Brandon Hanley, he runs a podcast, Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. We actually went through a book called Are You Ready to Succeed? We're going to be following that book as a framework to guide up to 10, fathers or men. You don't have to be a father either, but men who just want to really set a solid foundation for 2019. We're going to be going through detracting mental models that we all have. I have them to this day. You always have them. We're going to be going through exercises on how to take a step back and identify those false mental models that aren't serving us and how to reframe those into a more positive manner. We're going to be laying out a crystal clear vision for what you want in your life, what your ideal job is. Basically all aspects of your life will be detailed out, and you're going to have a crystal clear vision for what you want in your life, and you're not going to have the excuse of, well, I've got to work this 9-to-5 job, so I can have safe benefits and blah 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 blah. I mean, maybe that is what your vision is, but I think for the majority of the type of people that are going to come to something like this, I think it's going to look a little different. So that's it in a nutshell. We're just titling it Crush 2019. You can sign up at kenyonzitzka.com/crush 2019. That's CRUSH 2019. And you can sign up. There's it's a it's not a inexpensive investment, but anything that I've had to put a significant investment into, I've always got at least 4 times the investment return on investments. So you got to put a little skin in the game. And we're going to meet. It actually starts this week. We're going to meet Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern via Zoom, and we'll go through some exercises. We'll introduce the book, and we're gonna work together. I'm gonna be doing it once again, as is Brandon, and we're gonna work together, and we're gonna lay out a solid foundation for you for 2019.
Nice. That sounds really great, and absolutely something that people should try and get a start off for 2019. It's so important, and you're absolutely right. People don't, if they even think about New Year's resolution. I don't think about New Year's resolution anymore, but I work on it completely differently. But yeah, even if people think about that New Year's resolution, it might stick for like a week, and after that week, it's already gone at most. So then a great opportunity for the people. I will post a link as well underneath the video later on. And what I'll do is I'll also post in Kenyon's contact details. So if you have any questions, you can get in hold of him.
Yeah, I can always just look me up on Facebook. I don't think there's too many Kenyon Zitzkas out on Facebook these days, so should be pretty easy to find. Exactly. No excuse not to connect with me.
Exactly. There you go. Zero excuses, people. So let's talk about a little bit different. Let's talk a little bit about your daughter, man. She's almost 4, right?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, man, how do you go about, or are you already working with instilling the zero excuse habits with her, and how do you go about doing this?
Yeah, it's really starting to. I haven't figured out a solid system on doing this, but the other night, we checked the mail, and I was expecting a package. I'm just going to illustrate this through an example an exercise that I just came up with on the cuff, and basically. It's a bit of a walk to our mailbox, and I was expecting a package. And she loves opening up our mailbox, and there's a small package, little for larger boxes for non-letter mail. And we got a key in there, and she opened that up, and she's like, "I want what's in the box." It was a new pair of boots for me. So I knew what it was going to be, and knew as soon as she opened it, she'd be like, "Oh, these are Daddy's." But anyways, so I told her, "Hey, if you want what's in the box, this is Daddy's box. But if you want what's in the box, you have to carry it." She's, it's pretty feather light to me, but for a 3.5-year-old, it's bulky, and to her, it's heavy. So I was like, "You have to carry it all the way to our apartment and all the way up the stairs." So she started carrying it, and I was like, she started complaining that, this is too heavy for me. And if you need to set it down, you can set it down, but you need to carry it the entire way. So I had to keep reminding her, like, "Hey, if you want what's in this box, you have to do the work to get it." So it's coming up with these little exercises that, like, hey, if you want something, you have to put in the work to make it happen. So it's just thinking on your feet a little bit. Kids can be spontaneous, and you have to just be aware of when you can have these teaching moments. And one of the biggest excuses I hear from my daughter is like, "My legs are too tired," or "I'm too tired to do this." And my response to that is, well, if you're too tired if this is too much for you to do, maybe we should look into downsizing your toys. Maybe we should donate these toys to, someone who doesn't want them. And usually that gets the gears turning, and she's starting. I think that that connection is starting to happen in her mind, where, hey, you know what? If there's something that I need, something that I want, I can't complete. she's starting to realize that she can't rely on mommy and daddy to do everything for her anymore. So I think that's an important something that's important that she's starting to understand through some of these little exercises that I come up with on my own. But also, it's keeping her active. Every Saturday, there's a family fitness session at our CrossFit box here locally. I always try and get her to come with me to that workout. She doesn't necessarily participate in every single aspect of that. And in fact, most of it she doesn't participate because there's other kids there. But it's putting her in environments that are going to definitely benefit her. But we all see these parents. They're the parents that force them into sports, and that they are in their kids' face and constantly pushing them, and it ends up making it not fun for the kids. So you just put them in environments that they can thrive in, where they can build their own confidence, where they can learn on their own, where you don't have to be that parent that's constantly looking over your children's shoulders, and that when they do fall and when they do hurt themselves, you can be there to pick them up. And there hasn't been a time where I've taken her and introduced her to something new that she doesn't, she might, for example, she started doing some CrossFit stuff. She didn't like it at first, but I let her go do her thing. She's starting to participate a little bit more with daddy, every time we go. So it's just building off of these little wins that you have. So that's how I've been building that little bit of no excuses attitude in her. And as soon as I get a good system figured out, she's just now starting to get those start making those solid connections in her mind. So it's kind of early on for me to be able to describe a comprehensive system for fathers to follow. But I would say just make it fun for your kids. Don't put too much pressure on them, and just praise the effort, not necessarily the result.
Especially that's difficult for kids to understand that when they're doing it, it's great. However, it's okay if you make mistakes. I have difficulty with that with my oldest one. He started something. I was so proud of him. He made some mistakes. Of course, you got to point them out. You can't say, well, he did everything great. He made some mistakes. It's okay. So, it was a big big drama, crying, and made mistakes. But however, just keep trying to remind them of the fact that, it's great to do stuff on your own. And I was reminded as well of the fact that you just mentioned your daughter saying, Daddy, I'm tired. My son just did the same just now when I had him work on his mastery. I have him writing a lot, so numbers and letters. That's, until he can read, so we can pick up some good books. And he was also saying, I'm tired, Daddy. I can't write anymore. I want to play. I'm like, don't you use your arms as well when you're playing as when you're writing?
Yes.
You looked at me, so it was funny. And the same with eating, right? Daddy, my stomach hurts. I can't eat anymore. Okay. Daddy, is there ice cream?
Yes. I think those are the two classics for all kids, I think.
Right? It's brilliant. I love them. It's funny, and we just deal with them.
And the other, I just thought of something else here. My daughter, I was trying to brush her teeth, and I forget what the situation it was, but she was crying while I was trying to brush her teeth. And this is another moment where I was starting to get a little frustrated, but I was like, all right, take a step back. But I was really proud of her because I was trying to get the toothbrush in there. She's like, hold on a minute, Dad. I need, in her tears, she's like, Dad, I need to take some deep breaths. And my wife has been teaching her the way to calm yourself down is to take deep breaths. So it was like, I was like the self-improvement like geek inside of me was like smiling ear to ear. It's like, yes, that's how you do it. Calm yourself down, deep breathing, box breathing. That's what I'm talking about. So that, my wife has been, I don't want to say that, all this is it's definitely not all me. It's definitely mostly my wife has been, she stays at home. She doesn't have a job. She's been doing yeoman's work at home with my daughter. And, I've seen a lot of, I've heard a lot of horror stories with parents. Certainly we have our times with our daughter, but she's a good kid. Probably most parents say that about their kids, but I'm very thankful for the person she is becoming.
Awesome. Yeah, the deep breathing that helps. I try it with my son, but it's funny when they cry and I try to try to do the deep breathing, and it makes me laugh.
Yeah, she calmed herself down in about like 3 or 4 breaths. It was like, wow, wow.
Yeah, that's a victory. You gotta take those. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, I've noticed that fathers are just happy when their kids stay out of trouble and they behave right, and that's it. They don't really get involved with doing anything else. I'm just wondering, man, what are some other habits that are really important to you? And I know that that she's really young, but what are you thinking of already on about teaching her, and how are you already seizing the moments to work on those certain habits?
Well, actually, the other thing that I want to stress to fathers, before we get into that, it just popped in my mind. I want to say it before I forget it, but make sure that you're carving out time for yourself. Besides the morning routine and evening routine, make sure you're carving out time at least once a week for you to take care of yourself, to de-stress yourself, and my daughter notices that, and I make sure that she's like, hey, daddy needs this times for himself, because we all need a little time alone. We all need a little bit of time to think on our own and to do it without distractions. So it's kind of leading into answering your question, because I make it a point to point it out to her that, like, hey, daddy needs this time to do X, Y, and Z. And she's starting to understand that, hey, dad also needs to go to work. And I'm also, when I have the opportunity, I involve her in all my activities. Like, I've taken her to work. My 9-to-5 day job, I'm a port engineer for a U.S. government oceanographic research vessel. So there's been a number of times where I've brought her to work and showed her what daddy does, and why it's important that daddy goes to work every day. And she's sad when I go to work, but she understands that I'm doing something that that's bigger than myself. So I show her things on the ship. I'm showing her how things work, and I'm showing her, I'm just showing her the things that interest me and why they're important to me. I'm explaining to her why things are the way they are, and that sometimes we can't, life isn't all about fun and games, and that we have to do things that we don't necessarily enjoy. I think that's important to start teaching kids at a very early age, is that there are, for us to have things, and for us to have the lifestyle that we want, and why things, why we are able to enjoy our current lifestyle, is because we have to put in work to get a reward, and that nothing in life is without there's always a price to pay for having things in your life. And whether it's if you want to have a simple life, there are some some things that you have to be able to do without, like doing without the fancy big screen TV, or having a lot of video games, or watching a lot of TV. Making her understand that there's always going to be a price to pay, and that if you want something, you have to understand what the price of that is. And then when it's time to pay that price, to do it gladly instead of complaining when you have to, spend time on something or spend money on something or put effort into something. So I see so many kids, the biggest thing that I see with kids is this entitlement attitude that they should just have things, that there should be a lot of things that come free. I saw a post, I don't know if someone shared it, but on Facebook the other day, that food should be free, that healthcare should be free. Whether you were living in caveman days or you're living in modern day society, there was a price to pay for that food. You had to go out and get it. So either way you look at it, there's some sort of price that you have to pay. And I'm trying to help my daughter understand that at a very early age. And I think I might be going around in a bit of a circle. I don't know if I actually answered your original question there, but I don't know. I just started going on a bit of a tangent there. I thought I'd go with it.
No, that's perfect, man. I should say it correctly. I love those because that's when most value comes out. So that was absolutely perfect. We were talking about habits. You brought it out to, making sure that your daughter understands that, you have to know what you want in life, and you also have to know what you can do if you want that, and what you have to do if you want that, even if there are things that you don't want. Even if these things that you have to leave behind, even though you would like them. So yeah, that's really important to teach that in an early age. It's something that I have difficulty with, because then that's what you mentioned earlier as well. Environment makes such a big impact. My mother-in-law, every single time we come to visit, she gives them a present, and it's starting to come to a stage where my kids, when they have to go, and we had to go 2 weekends ago because she broke her arm, and we had to go to the hospital, and he's like, "Oh, we have to go visit our grandma. Did she get our gifts?" I'm like, "Dude, I just told you she broke her arm." Really? So, and that's difficult then, because you don't have the control. And I told her once, but she's old, she's not remembering everything as well.
Yeah.
So those kind of things. So absolutely, those lessons to teach our kids are very important. So I'm really happy that you went on a tantrum. That's a tantrum. Excuse me, on a rant. That's always great. So listen, man. In regards to, because as you know, for me, a fearless father is an entrepreneur. Yes or yes. And I got my reasons for that. And you're doing your thing right now in retiring from the military, and then going into this, and working on building up your business. I'm just wondering, man, besides the impact that you're trying to deliver, what's your why for wanting to be an entrepreneur and not going to work again for another boss?
Well, my why is that I just want to have complete freedom to spend my time however I decide to spend it. And I used to be a race car driver, and I started to pursue that dream. And this is back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, and that's something that was my childhood dream, is to become a race car driver, and maybe not necessarily do it professionally at the top tier levels, but to enjoy that sport. And that takes a lot of money, and that takes a lot of time working on, and I wanted to do it a bit of, on my own terms, and not necessarily just show up and drive someone else's race car. So that's kind of my main motivation for becoming an entrepreneur. You can stop trading your time for money and start trading your money for time as an entrepreneur, because you get to set your own hours, you get to set your own prices. You can, you're only as valuable as you value yourself. So that's what really the mindset shift that I've made in the past couple of years, is that, what, I don't have to necessarily work this job that pays me by the hour. Like I can create income streams that that's not tied to time. I can, there is some sort of time investment, but as an entrepreneur, you have this freedom to just create these various income streams. it's 2018. You and I are connected across the ocean through this platform, and there's no excuse for me not to, even if I do continue working this job, there's no excuse for me not to infinitely be able to increase my income. And whether it's paying someone to come to my house to do laundry, do dishes, clean, that's freeing, that's trading money for time. I'm able to free my wife, my daughter, myself up from doing those tasks. So becoming an entrepreneur buys me that particular freedom. So that's a long way to say that this becoming an entrepreneur, I feel, is a path to being able to do what I want and make the impact that I want, because I want other people to be able to have this type of freedom too, and to have this discipline, to live a no excuses life, because I think there's way too many people out there that are settling for mediocre because of this excuse that they need to have safe jobs with safe benefits, that they're going to be guaranteed these things by working this 9-to-5 job. And the only thing that I feel is guaranteed, the only person that I can bet on is myself. Even though I've worked for the U.S. government, that's a pretty safe job. But who's to say that budget cuts come down the line in the next year or two? President might change and change policy and downsize the organization that I'm in, and my job might be gone. So I feel like the safest bet is on myself. So that's kind of my why, in not so much of a nutshell.
Yeah, it's really powerful, man. What you shared, especially saying that it all comes down to me, and I'm as safe as I can be as long as I work on it myself. So that's awesome. Now, of course, the whole entrepreneurship is not really being taught, or it's not being taught at all, especially not in schools. And I'm just wondering, man, because a lot of fathers, and they listen to me, and I keep telling them, you must be an entrepreneur, and they're struggling. I'm like, yeah, but how do we do this? Not being taught. So I'm just wondering, man, what are some of the key lessons that you have learned since you started that would have been helpful for you to know at the beginning?
I would say is that number one, if you do have something that you want to do, just get out and do it. And don't wait for the perfect time, because there's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to know enough. And getting started will start to reveal those serious blind spots where you need to, hone your skills. Those, because you may feel like before you start, I need to work on X, Y, and Z, and then you start and realize that you're completely wrong. When I started the podcast, I thought I needed to learn all this like web software. I needed to learn, all these, how to run a website. Wrong. I needed to learn how to tell stories. I needed to learn how to. I need to learn how to concisely and more effectively convey my ideas. So getting started is the first step. Don't delay any longer. You already know what you need to know to get started, and what you need to know is your idea. Whatever it is, your idea, whatever you're passionate about, that's all you need to know. Just start telling people about it. Start helping people, whether it's underwater basket weaving or helping people understand and start going towards what they want. No matter what it is, you already know what you're passionate about. That's all you need to know. And the second thing is, just don't have any preconceived notions about how to do it either. Do it your way. And if you feel like someone else is already like in your sandbox, that someone's already doing it, and you can never do it to that person's level, that's just an excuse in hiding. And there's only one of you, and that's the wild card there. That's the no one is going to be able to convey ideas in the same exact manner as you. you don't have the experiences as that other person. And after a while, you're just going to find your own voice. You're going to, everyone knows Jocko Willink. He talked about discipline and everything, so do I. But, Jocko, Jocko's Jocko, and I'm Kenyon Zitzka. So not everyone's gonna connect with Jocko. Not everyone's gonna connect with me. But as soon as you start putting out your message, that's going to start broadcasting your message to the people who need to hear it. And you don't need to have a million download a month podcast. You only need to have that one person that needs to hear your message download your podcast, and then the next one. You need to have, it's going to start a snowball effect. So you don't need to have these, these grandiose expectations. Just focus on finding that perfect customer. Tailor your message to that one person that, like, if there was an ideal person that you want to work with, who would that be? And when I answer that question, not surprisingly, it was me about 5-6 years ago. Spitting image of me, that is my perfect client. Like, what would I tell, by default, ask yourself, what would I tell myself 10 years ago, 5-10 years ago? And that's a good place to start as well. Start with those ideas and start talking about them. Start blogging about it. Start talking about it on a podcast. Everyone has these like 30 to 40 minute podcasts. That's not me. I don't like hearing myself talk. So just be you. I do, short podcasts. I do longer interviews. Make it you. Just be you. And you can't go wrong there.
Exactly. That's great advice. Thanks for that. And yeah, man, from what you've shared with us so far, man, it's been really valuable. You're doing amazing things with Zero Excuses. Now, I've also understood that you have a big opportunity for fathers out there that are listening. I believe you have like a free coaching call or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how can people set that up with you?
Yeah, basically, if you would like to work with me, on a close one-on-one basis, you can apply to be part of my coaching program. I call it my discipline coaching program, kenyonzitzka.com/discipline. There's a short application, and then you can schedule an hour, strategy session with me, and we'll see if we're a good fit. I'll definitely go over some strategies that you can implement right away. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. And then I also have a free closed Facebook group at kenyonzitzka.com/group. I make these try and make these links real easy for everyone. So if you just want to talk about discipline, talk about these excuses that you might be hiding behind, that's a perfect group to go in and start interacting with the members inside there. We've got close to 500. We've had some great conversations. I don't want to tens of thousands of people in there. I mean, if we're having great conversations, everyone's engaged, great. But I just like having a close, tight-knit community of people that are just going towards the same thing, and that's an excuse-free life. Although I believe it's an idealized state, we're always going to have excuses. I think that's a good aim to go towards. So that's kind of the mission of the group. And, if anything else, I would just love to interact with everyone. If you just want to follow me on Facebook, that's a great way to just interact with me. I just love helping people, even if it is, a snippet of advice that's going to move you forward. I don't mind answering questions. You can also shoot me an email, kenyon.zitzka@gmail.com. So no excuse not to interact with me.
Exactly. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So quickly before we finish this live interview, man, you were talking earlier about audiobooks. I'm just wondering, what are some of the top or some of the biggest impact books you've read that you could recommend to other fathers out there?
I'll recommend 3. First one is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I had the pleasure of interviewing him earlier this year on my podcast, but that book, all I can say is it really helped me get rid of all the bullshit in my life, and made me look at, hey, what is not adding value to myself, to my life. So it basically allowed me to streamline things that I was doing, helped me take a step back and really see where I was wasting time, wasting my energy. And that's number one. Number two, I'm actually listening to it right now, and I'm totally gigging out on it. And that's Grant Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average. I just started it today. I love listening to audiobooks because I can listen to them on 2x speed, and I'll probably be able to finish 2 or 3 books a week doing that. And then the other one, the third one, that one's a tough one because there's so many great books out there. Probably Unbeatable Mind by Mark Divine, because I really think that if we start working on our mind and our bodies, that is a solid foundation. If we can have a clear mind and a healthy body, there's the sky's the limit. It starts there. It starts with nutrition, sleep, hydration, working out, and getting your mind right. Those are kind of like my 5 top things that I like to do every day, and Mark does a beautiful job of going through how to create, like the book says, an unbeatable mind. So those are my top 3 books.
Those are some powerful books. Thanks for sharing that. My list is getting bigger and bigger of all the books that I want to read still.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Kenyon, thanks so much for being my guest today on this live interview show. I hope everybody enjoyed it just as much as I have. And we're going to hear lots more from you.
Absolutely.
And I wish everybody a wonderful evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you're at. And I hope to see you all soon.
All righty. Thanks for having me on, man. Been a pleasure.
Are you still meeting up with your friends now that you're a father? Kids making you stress out. You got no time for yourself to work out, read, or relax. Can you still remember the time you were hanging out with your friends, feeling energetic, happy, and confident? Spending time together and talking about your life and your crazy dreams. You're feeling alone now, don't you? No one to share your challenges with, and you're just running around from one storm into the next. Well, it's time to change this now. Join me and the Brotherhood of Fearless Fathers to speak on a weekly basis with like-minded dads to crush your challenges, face your fears with determination, be held accountable, and regain control of your life. If you want to become the hero your family needs you to be, then go to becomeafearlessfather.com/brotherhood. Looking forward to seeing you on one of our next calls.